We have this hunger. And I have no reason to believe that any naturalistic explanation can explain the consciousness's hunger for meaning and significance, because that's all propositional. It's not molecules in motion.
What's naturalistic mean?
Naturalistic just means nature, and that's all there is, basically. So you have molecules in motion largely governed by natural law. There is no outside transcendent anything. There's no immaterial anything, certainly not an immaterial God that has started the process and sustains the process and gives life meaning. There either is meaning objectively or not, okay? If not, then it's up to us.
For example, a moment ago you said that if there is a creator God who brings us into existence, then you are designed and you are given purpose by God. And I think we need to investigate this a bit further. Because, for example, a quite sort of boring and overdone debate at the moment is the extent to which we are engaged in the production of potentially artificially conscious agents with artificial intelligence technologies. And there's all this discussion about whether or not these things can be conscious, like, whatever. But let's just suppose for a moment that they were. Let's suppose that I created an artificially intelligent machine and I gave it a purpose, and that purpose was to produce paper clips. And because of the development of artificial intelligence technology, it became conscious in a recognizable sense. It had an interior sense of self. It sort of had, say, feelings or emotions about the world. But it is just an AI robot whose entire purpose in life is to make paper clips. Now, I could say that because that AI was designed by a creator with a purpose that was explicitly given to it, that life is meaningful. But I think it would seem to most people that a life whose meaning consists in creating paper clips is not sufficient, is not enough to address what people really want. It's not just some kind of purpose. It's not just even some kind of purpose which is given to you by an authoritative creative source.
So can I respond?
It's something which is further than that. Yeah, but if I can just relate this to the God question, the problem that arises is that you have to answer the question of why God infuses life with the meaning that he gives it. It's either something which he has sort of arbitrarily plucked up and chosen to create, in which case we have this problem of arbitrariness, or no, or in fact, there is some reason why God had to give us a particular kind of meaning that's endemic to the human condition, that he had no choice but for that meaning, that more important kind of meaning, to be given to human life. But if he was beholden to that, if he had to give us a particular kind of meaning, it seems like there's a standard of meaning which exists outside of God. So I'm not sure, in other words, the mechanism by which being created by someone who says this is your purpose would be fulfilling in the way that people want it to be.
The reason the paperclip illustration doesn't match is because it seems to me that you're subtly taking the thing that's conscious that makes paper clips and comparing it to a human being. And for human beings who seem to have a different purpose, I would argue, be consigned to make paper clips, well, that's dehumanizing to them. But if you have, just to follow your illustration, if you have a creator that makes something for a reason that the creator has in mind, then it's fulfilling its purpose perfectly, For a human being, that's not going to be satisfying, making paper clips. And a lot of people who are making paper clips are not satisfied with it, okay? I don't think it's arbitrary if God is making something for a purpose. If God decides that he wants to make creatures to be in friendship with him because this reflects his loving character, and that purpose is to be in friendship with him, I don't see how that is somehow negligible or arbitrary at all. I guess you could have said that God could have done otherwise, but his love and desire for communion is seen to be an adequate explanation for that.
This is fascinating. So my first question is, what's the point of this conversation?
Yeah, so I think that the ultimate answer that we're looking for is it appears that the numbers around purpose and meaning are fluctuating at this moment in time. A lot of people are turning back to religion, as Alex we were just chatting about a second ago. And I guess there's two questions, which is one, understanding why that's happening, why there's this fluctuation, why we're seeing a mental health crisis around purpose and meaning. And the second is to try and figure out if there's a truth one can arrive at, if there's an objective truth that exists.
So for y'all, I'm curious, when y'all show up here, like, what is the purpose for y'all showing up?
Literally trying to discover Like it's the stated purpose,
Yeah.
right? It's literally just artificially given purpose by being designed in a particular way. We're going to get together and we're going to have a conversation and see if we can figure out this meaning stuff, right?
Awesome.
And by the way, like we're not going to solve that problem. I think it's worth pointing out that like these conversations have to be exploratory and subjective. If anybody thinks that the four of us sat at this table are going to solve the meaning crisis and give people a 5-step guide to finding meaning in their life, and that will be the sort of case closed, then they're delusional.
I don't know if I agree that we can't find an answer, but we'll talk about
Well,
it.
this is what I wanted to speak to. Obviously, we're talking about this broader issue of meaning and purpose, all right? And as I mentioned earlier, there either is an objective one or it's only subjective, okay? If it is an objective one, this is about the most important thing that anyone could ever find out about their life, if they were created for a reason. In my view, the reason I'm here is because I'm convinced that that's the case, and I'm willing to give reasons why, okay? But I don't think I'm sympathetic to the concern that you can't sit around a table and in 2 or 3 hours solve the problem for any individual, because people going through the process of trying to figure these things out, it takes a long time as they put the pieces together. But I think there's a lot of people in the world that think they have put it together and they've come to conclusions about ultimate meaning and purpose, and they don't come to my own conclusions, but many have. So what I would hate to do is to leave people with the feeling like we can all search and the glory is in the search, but if you think you found the answer, then you haven't. Of course, this to me is a nihilistic enterprise then. I think it's possible to come to conclusions.
Yeah,
I think so too, to be clear, but I think what I'm trying to say is this will be something that one will experience for themselves and will discover for themselves in their own life. It's not going to be something that, there's that old, was it Lynchy, the sort of the Buddhist koan that says, if you meet the Buddha, kill him. The idea being that, if you think that the kind of enlightenment which is necessary to spiritual fulfillment can be found through some kind of guru, you're missing the mark. It's something that you need to do for yourself.
But isn't that statement itself meant to be a truth about spirituality that you can actually count on?
Can I jump in? I just wanted to make sure I understand y'all's point. So you're saying that the search for purpose, first of all, is never going to go away, like is a human condition, right?
Yes.
So as humanity will never find its purpose.
I can tell you why if you like.
No, I don't need to know why yet.
I think individuals can, but humanity
That's
can't.
what was, I'm just making sure I understand, right? So an individual can find their purpose, but as humanity, it's never going to be solved. And then you said something about purpose being tied to opposing to death in some way. So transcending death, that human beings basically look for purpose because death is inevitable. And if we can find purpose, then we can give our life meaning. But if we die, and I don't leave something behind. Can you talk a little bit about that?
This is essentially a version of Ernest Becker's denial of death hypothesis, which famously suggests that the motivation for a great deal of human behavior is at least human behavior outside of immediate sensory concerns like eating and stuff like that. Anything that humans engage in on a societal level, on an abstract level, is ultimately motivated by an apprehension of death. I think that's probably too simple, but it's definitely a contributing factor. I think that, for example, put it this way, right? Here's an example that comes from, I think his name's Scheffler, and he has this interesting thought experiment. Suppose, I don't know, maybe you're engaged in writing a book. Suppose you discovered, and this probably won't be the case for you because you believe in an afterlife, but suppose that you're an atheist for a moment. Suppose it were the case that you discovered that after you die, a meteor is going to come and wipe out all life on Earth. Everybody's going to die almost instantly after you do, but you'll be dead. So you will live your entire life as it was anyway, and suppose the rest of the world doesn't even know this is going to happen, but you're told this is going to be the case. Would that motivate you to write your book more or less? Most people say that it would seem a bit pointless now. What's the point now in writing this book? What's the point in having children if they're going to die 30 days after I'm gone? What's the point in doing any of these things? What will they still do? They'll still do the sensory stuff. They'll still eat. They'll still have sex. They'll still sleep, this kind of stuff. But the typically meaning-laden activities of life, they would certainly be demotivated to do. And it's an interesting thought experiment to give us some insight as to the fact that, well, maybe this means that, at least in part,
Can
the
I
motivation for these actions in the first place is that they will extend beyond our death.
I agree with so much of what y'all say, and I also hard disagree with some of the fundamentals. So let's say you have this example of I'm gonna write a book and then the world is gonna end 30 days later.
Yes.
And so you say, because a lot of what you're talking about is what people say, right?
Yep.
So you'll say okay, so people would say that this is a waste of time and I'm not going to do it if the world ends in 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And you're also saying people is an everlasting thing or struggling with purpose, right? You're saying both of these things. So here's my question to you. If you tell someone, you're writing this book, let's say you write it and then you die, because we'll simplify the example, and then 30 days later the world ends. Let's take two people, one who says, I'm going to write it anyway, and one who says there's no point. Which one of those two people do you think has a greater sense of purpose?
Probably the former.
Absolutely. So this is the key thing. Purpose is absolutely, because I love that you're asking about mechanisms, and I think maybe that's what I can provide. I think that's actually the answer, right? So it's not that people believe, and I think you're right, that the reason that this is a perennial problem is because most people do not live a life where they understand how purpose works. And what I think is really fascinating about sort of like this scientific clinical approach, like if you ask me, can I help people find meaning and purpose? I don't know. But if you ask me, can I help a person? The answer is absolutely. And we have like particular scientific things. And this is where it's really counterintuitive. So a big part of like finding purpose is doing particular things. And if you do those things, the likelihood that you will increase your sense of purpose in life, which is another thing that's very counterintuitive to people, purpose is not binary. It's quantifiable. It's like a scale. So if I were to ask the three of y'all, right, maybe let's do this, not a thought experiment, but this practical experiment. Do you know your purpose in life? Like, how confident are you that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in life?
How confident am I about the God part, or that I'm doing the things that are appropriate?
How confident are you that you're doing what God wants you to do?
Well, in that general sense, extremely confident, or else I wouldn't be doing it.
Perfect, right?
Yeah.
So, Stephen, what about you, bro?
About 5 out of 10.
I knew it. Okay, right? So, Alex?
I don't want to be difficult, but I kind of reject the grammar of the question.
Awesome. Reject away, bro.
I think it's what a logician would call an exponable statement, something which needs to be broken down. You asked, do I know my own purpose? That assumes that there is a purpose to know. It's a bit like, the comparison I would give is if I asked you the question, the classic example in logic is the King of France bold, yes or no?
I can rephrase my question if you have problems with my question. So, do you have a lived experience of something called purpose?
Oh, well, look, I think purpose is having some kind of reason to act or be.
Yeah.
And I certainly subjectively am motivated to do things. I think everybody is, otherwise you literally wouldn't be able to do anything. But it's a bit foggy to me what, psychologically speaking, on a personal level, that fundamental motivation actually is.
Wouldn't purpose be more the goal rather than the reason to act? What you're trying to accomplish?
It's a semantic thing, but that's why it depends what you mean by the word
No,
purpose.
I'm with you. I'm with you. So, and I don't know what I mean with the word purpose, which is part of this challenge. But okay, so like I'm just wondering. So like so a lot of people are motivated to act. Everyone is motivated to act every day, right?
Yeah.
I get out of bed, I need to take a dump, but my guess is that if we were to administer a scientifically validated instrument that measures your subjective sense of purpose, direction in life, that would be north of 5 out of 10.
Okay.
Do you think that's fair, or is that something that you don't?
Maybe, yeah. I don't know
So
what
do you when you wake up, do you feel like you know what you want to do and what's going on, and you're like doing good work? Like I'm asking about the subjective.
Not
feeling.
on a grand sense. I'm quite agnostic. I mean, I'm sort of.
I'm not talking about. Okay, maybe a
It depends. I really don't know what you mean.
No, perfect. So, okay, so not on a grand sense, but on some other sense. Yes.
Sure.
Okay, great. So I think that I think this is beautiful because I think what we have here is like not on a grand sense. So I think on a grand sense, you're there, right? But you're absolutely motivated by particular things. So I think this is the first thing about purpose.
Can a clarification real quickly?
Sure.
Yeah, on a grand sense, yes, but there are distinctions that you were referring to a few moments ago.
Great.
There are a lot of things that are dissatisfying in my life, but in terms of being on the right course, that's part of what life is. Being on the right course, lots of crazy stuff that's happening in between.
Cool. So like the first thing that I've kind of noticed in my work is that I don't know whether a grander purpose exists or not. I think that's a lovely discussion that I want to continue to have with you. But I'm sort of, here's where I'm sort of coming from in this discussion. Stephen started this out with some really scary statistics that we're seeing, right? There's a mental health crisis. I think a lot of what we're seeing is while it may be perennial, I think it's like seems more acute right now.
Yes.
Maybe that's because of the atheist materialism, whatever. I'm not quite sure, but this is a problem. So just sharing where I'm coming from, my hope is that someone who is watching this will have moved forward some vague percentage points. I'm shooting for about 20% in their personal quest for purpose.